I'm not where I'm supposed to be. I'm going
Hey,
in
I'm Danielle
circles,
Davies, and you're
going
listening to
in
Roar, a
circles.
show that
I
amplifies
should
the
get
voices of women
away
breaking
from
barriers, leading
here.
change, and
There's a
making real
better
impact.
place for me,
Keep listening for bold
better
ideas and
place for
stories that
me.
inspire you to
Trying to
find your
play my
voice and make some
symphony,
noise.
but there's so much.
Take Back Trust is a direct to patient education and empowerment platform that helps people navigate and access reproductive health care in an increasingly restrictive landscape. Through clear, actionable resources, Take Back Trust equips individuals with the knowledge and tools they need to advocate for their rights and get the care they deserve, no matter the political climate. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Roar, the podcast that amplifies the voices of women who aren't just making waves, they're building movements and creating lasting change. Today's guest is the perfect example of that. Marina Rabinek dedicated 24 years of her life to serving in the United States Navy, but her service didn't end there. As a civilian, she's leading the charge for women's veterans through the Military Women's Collective, a nonprofit focused on support, advocacy, and community building for those transitioning out of the military. Women veterans face unique challenges that too often go unnoticed, from career transitions to mental health struggles to ensuring they're heard in spaces still dominated by men. Marina's tackling these issues head on, and today we're diving into her journey, the powerful work of the Military Women's Collective, and why lifting up women veterans is critical. Marina, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Danielle. That was an amazing intro. Like,
I gotta say, I'm getting this, and I'm like, maybe I should just do podcast intros. Like, that's just all I do, is just introduce people.
you're like a serious hype woman. I think you'd make an amazing MC.
Okay, that's what I should do. That's it. That's my whole thing. But I'm very excited to talk about hype women. You're a hype woman. I'm excited to talk about what you've done because, I mean, a lot of people would think 24 years of service is enough giving. You've done you've done enough, but you
You'd
took that.
think, right?
You would think you took that in this whole career and then became a powerhouse advocate for women. So can you tell me like what sparked your passion for doing the work that you do?
Oh, wow. I have always had a heart for service. I don't even know where it started. I just know that when I joined, I mean, even before even before I joined the military, a few people know this about me. I actually worked for Disney Paris. Um, yeah, I know. I speak fluent French because my mother is French. And so yeah, I actually was in customer service, if like technically. So it really started back at the age of 18, I guess, really. Um, and then, after I'm making people do math, and then there's of course the 24 years of military service. And I won't say how many years is in between that because we're not gonna, you never ask a woman her age.
No, we don't need to do that part.
But yeah, I just realized while I was in, and then of course after I got out, that I needed to be of service to others because that is what feeds my soul. Giving back to others, helping them through transitions, helping them to achieve their purpose. Those are the things that, like I said, that feed my soul and that make me feel like me. They make me feel the best me that I can be.
Can and I told you this before when I emailed you, but I've done a lot of research into what it's like to transition out of the military because I'm a mom of somebody going in. And so like all
Yes,
moms do, I've planned out like the next 30 years
of
mentally,
course.
every struggle in the world. And I'm like, there are these resources for when you get out. My son's like, I'm not even in.
Yes.
So relax. But can you just touch base on some of the issues that affect veterans when they are out of service? Because, I know a lot of people, so you think service and you think danger. A lot of people. I'll just go
Right.
with me. I think service and then I think danger. Right? They can
Right.
be hand in hand, especially in the military. So a lot of people think, oh, well, they're definitely going to have PTSD or worse. There could be physical problems,
Right.
a lot of physical issues. However, it's not just that. It's a lot of the fact of like losing your sense of identity sometimes people.
Yes.
So could you talk a little bit about the myriad struggles that people could encounter and why
Oh,
this
for
work is
sure.
so important?
So I tell people when they, especially active duty personnel, when they are transitioning out of the military, here is the main issue that I have seen. First of all, coming into the military, we have weeks, and I mean weeks, of, I'm going to put quotations, of indoctrination into the military. You learn the acronyms, you learn, the different things that you're going to need to know to speak, for me, to speak Navy or to speak military. It's a lot of acronyms, I'll tell you. Um, what I have found is the longer that someone's in the military, the more institutionalized or indoctrinated they become to that life. And what you're saying about the identity shift is huge, because I'll kid you not, it took me over 3 years, and I still suffer from it a little bit, but it took me over 3 years to come away from what you were talking about with regards to like PTSD and things like that. I have hypervigilance. Um, some people will call it attention to detail, but hypervigilance is when you're just always, like seeing everything around you. Like for example, the background behind you. I see everything. I don't just see like the pencil or the markers. For me, hypervigilance is looking at everything that's around you to ensure that you have what we like to call SA, situational awareness. And it's so hard to turn yourself off when you've been in the military for a long time. It's as though you always have that underlying, what's the word, underlying adrenaline that's always there. It's always there, like, okay, what do I need to do, what do I need to do? um because you think that there is some task or some mission that you need to be doing, and that is so hard to come down off of. It's like we've been living in this adrenaline focused lifestyle for so long, and I wonder sometimes, gosh, should everybody that gets out of the military be attested for like adrenal failure? Because we've been so long like that it makes me wonder if, gosh, that's why everybody's so tired, and we have this huge suicide problem. Um, I mean, that is one of the main reasons that I started Military Women's Collective, was to combat that huge epidemic of suicide. And for me, I'm niching myself into women veterans and military women because, hello, I am one.
Right.
Um, and I know how extremely lonely and isolated, and I mean, yes, I was depressed. You go from having this huge tribe of people to nothing, to nothing. It took you 5 weeks or more to get indoctrinated into the military. Do you know how many days you get to get reoriented, as you were saying, back into civilian life? Five. 5 days. That is how long what we call TAP classes. It's transition assistance program. It's too short. Why are we doing 5 weeks to come in and only 5 days to go out? It should be exactly the same
And not to
coming
mention,
out.
it feels like when you're going in, you're entering into something that is so rule based, value based.
Yes.
It's so its own organization that should
Yes.
you not know one or two things as well as you should, you're going to learn it because there's this community that's going to carry
Yes.
you along. When you're going out, you're literally like, "Hello world." You're loose.
Absolutely.
You're
And so many people get blinded. Even I did. They get blinded to what what they think they should do when they get out. So for my last few years of my career, the last about 6 or 7 years, I was doing equal opportunity work. And so I thought, oh, I'm going to be, I'm going to work in DE&I. Obviously, that's not a good idea right now. But but I'm
I feel like I need to say the date because it's February of 2025 and anything could be happening by the time this podcast comes out.
This is true.
So this is the third time I've had to do that though, that I've had to say the date. Go ahead.
But I thought, oh wow, because I'm doing EO work, equal opportunity work, I should get into, EEO on the and yes, I'm going to say civilian side, because if we talk
Right.
when somebody comes from the military, we have that distinction between the two. I mean, we could call it corporate, industry, whatever you want to say, but I'll go with civilian right now. So when I was going and doing that, I thought, oh, I need to stay in HR. What I'm doing right now is obviously in the HR realm, like training and development, DE&I, EO, things like that. So I thought, oh, well, I'll go and check out SHRM and I'll check out all these different things. And then I realized once I started getting into it, this is not my jam. This is not what I need to be doing. I need to be giving back. I need to be making an immediate impact. And that's why I do what I do now. I create these events, I create connection, but I'm also giving back to the community.
Well, and it sounds like that's like an extension of your service rather than
right, exactly.
Converting, to, I guess, the civilian job market. You've created your own area to help other people, which I think
exactly. And of course, I mean, I did post-military, I did work in some nonprofits and other entities that assist veterans as well. I mean, there's been a couple of nonprofits and things like that I have worked for that I adore. One of them being 4 Block. I was I was with the regional director for the West Coast for about a year and a half, and just a phenomenal resource for anyone that is getting out and wants to be introduced back into industry, corporate, or just go through, or wants to learn how to do their elevator pitch or how to craft a resume, how to, what the first 90 days is going to look like. It's a wonderful resource that I used when I was transitioning out, and I'm so glad I did, because I went from, being a student to being a coach to being an instructor to being, part of the part of the team. And it was a really great experience. Now, like I said, I am branching out on my own because I really just want to do as much as I can for women veterans, more so than all veterans, because I don't feel that there are enough resources that are specific to, I'm going to say us, because I'm using myself as the,
could you tell me what women might experience that's different? And, when you were saying, you've got that, what is it, that hyper-awareness?
Hypervigilance, hyper-awareness, yeah.
So when you say that, and, I think to myself, and keep in mind, I have absolutely zero military experience. I only have peripheral experience from other people being in the military and me listening. So I have no idea what I'm talking about, but it seems like a really intense, kind of experience, you're intense. And a lot of times in our culture in the United States, men are primed to be intense, right? We're driven. Yeah. We're intense men, and women are not necessarily cultivated or raised with that same intensity.
For sure.
Or good or bad, it just doesn't. So it seems like it would be harder to find a place coming out of the military for a woman. And maybe it's not. I'm just wondering, is that part of why, besides you being a woman, is that why are there gaps? Like, are there other gaps that,
Oh, absolutely there are. So I've had the privilege of attending a couple of resources that I think all military slash veteran women should attend. And I know they won't mind me talking about them because I support them all the time. I was able to attend something called the Focus Forward Fellowship. This is at Purdue University. It always takes place in the summer when there's no students there. It is a 4-day fellowship where you learn about your strengths. You're going to get your Gallup strengths done, your DISC profile done, and you learn how to, to come together as leaders. There's mentors, so coaching mentors and actual mentors for careers as well. I went the first time back in 2022. I came back in 23 as one of the coaching mentors. And for last year and now again this year, I've been asked to come out and be an instructor for LinkedIn and branding, because I think both of those are super, super important for women veterans to know in order to be able to, go out into the world and find that job, that purpose that they, that job that has the purpose that they want to follow. The only caveat with that is that the person has to be in school either for their bachelor's or their master's degree
for that program.
for that program. The other program, which you've said the words a couple times now, there's a program called the Women Veterans Leadership Program. It originally fell underneath the nonprofit The Mission Continues. They decided to remove it from them because they are very much focused on community service, doing community projects like right now they're going to be going to Tampa and doing like the Tampa takeover, where they're going to just do all these different amazing community service projects. They did it in San Antonio last year. And so this year, like I said, it's down in Florida. They decided to move their money towards that instead. So a different nonprofit took over the Women Veterans Leadership Program, and it's called Beneath the Service, or BTS. And then every time I say that, I think of like the Korean group, I'm like, hey, but BTS has another program called Reorient. And you said those words a couple times. And what it's about is reclaiming your identity. And that's what both WVLP and Reorient classes are about, is being able to find that identity again after you've been, like I said earlier, indoctrinized, institutionalized. And yet again, the longer you're in, the more you have that military hierarchy, mindset. So, I'm hopeful that women will partake in these kinds of programs, because they're so helpful. You earlier were talking about like PTSD, and you also said something about women having specific needs. It's much more prevalent for women to have suffered from a MST, which is a military sexual trauma. And that is something that men aren't suffering as much from when they are leaving the military. That is something that I have seen.
A whole other
Yes.
other set of baggage with you. I mean, I don't mean to say
100%.
baggage, but it's a whole other concept that's just got to be really rough.
Exactly. And is another reason why I think a lot of women don't claim their identity, their woman veteran identity, because after you've gone through such a traumatic experience like that, that is going to make you a lot of times just want to push whatever caused that as far away from you as possible. So I remember going through the program, and we had to do a call to action at the right near the end of the program. And one of the people talked about her her MST, and it was so powerful. Like, I can't, just thinking about it makes me want to tear up, because it was so powerful that by the end of the call to action, her whole body was shaking. And so I followed her to the restroom and just hugged her for like 10 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
I think it was like an adrenaline release. But also the fact that she had shared a story that I don't think she had shared with anyone. And the fact that she felt comfortable enough to share with all of us, just, it blew my mind, and it showed me the power of women coming together, like what we can achieve and how we can help each other heal. Yet another, and thinking about healing, yet another amazing program that brings to mind is something called Warrior Path. That's with two H's on the end. It's
Okay.
that's through the Boulder Crest Foundation. I recently attended one of their retreats, which is wow. I can't even put into words. I met 7 other amazing women, and it's not just for military and veterans, it's also for first responders. It
Okay.
is a phenomenal course that can, not course, training. I can't even, like, I don't know the exact word, but I call it a retreat because, hey, I went out to Texas for 7 days, and
It's definitely a retreat then.
yeah, exactly. But I mean, it wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to lay in bed for 7 days. No, I mean, it was intense. There was a lot of sharing and storming, norming, and performing, if all that good stuff. And I mean, it was, there's so many resources out there, and that is one of the big things that I love to do, is share resources with people. Just ask me,
I was just
I
gonna say, like, you're such a wealth of knowledge. I have 2 questions, and I know I'm gonna
yes.
forget the one. So I'm just gonna, well, let me just ask you. So besides being a resource and being able to guide women towards all these, you've like named 6 of them. I've been jotting down the last few, but before that, you were naming some. What are other ways you help with the Military Women's Collective? It's not just resources, because
Right.
you do things like, what are you? How are you helping them? But also, this was the other question, and I don't know if they should be together, but I'm afraid I'm going to forget if I don't ask you. For these women who've had to undergo some type of what did you call it?
MST. So I would just say like a traumatic experience. Yeah.
Okay, MST. So if they, but it's basically generally at the hands of another service member. So you're not.
Correct.
So it's not, you haven't had a traumatic experience necessarily from whoever you're possibly fighting, the enemy or
Yeah.
another. It's within, and this is somebody
Correct.
that's supposed to have your back. So that's a
Yes.
whole
And
other
that's what's so
level.
devastating. That is
Yes.
what's so devastating and it doesn't, I'm not saying that it happens to women only, and because it doesn't, it really doesn't. And it's, so I want to, say that because I know it happens to men as well. Um, it's, it, I'm trying to think how to say that, because it ruins that sense of tribe that I was talking about in
Yeah,
the
I was
beginning.
going to say, so how do they reconcile that with, like,
That's the
you
issue.
want to have this, this pride or this history or this identity, this self identity, but on the other hand, you want nothing to do with it. Like, where do you, How do you reconcile that? How
It
do
it
you guide
takes
these women?
years for some people. It really does. Like I know that some of these women that went through this program, it took them years to be able to apply for the program because they weren't sure that they wanted to go back into that identity that had caused them so much pain and so much suffering. And I think it's an extremely courageous and brave woman that can decide, this was something that happened to me, but it doesn't define me. And that's what I saw so many times, because there was more than just that one woman
Oh, I'm sure.
that, because there was 70 something plus women in this, in that last cohort, the one that I was a part of, cohort 7. And by the end of the by the end of the program, just seeing women be able to claim that identity back, like it made me cry multiple times. I can't even tell you,
Oh,
because
I'm sure. It's got to be so powerful
yeah, it
to
really
witness that,
was. It really was.
And actually for you to be part of kind of helping women along on that journey. I mean,
Yeah.
that's got to be, I'm sure your naval service means a lot to you, as it should, but this has to mean something equally important. It's
Yeah, it does. It's different because I'm doing it on my own terms, and I'm not, like, somebody isn't telling me what to do. Well, except maybe my board of directors, but I'm not being told, you got to wear this and you got to be here at this time, and da, 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 da. I mean, that was it. I think that's another huge issue with people coming out of the military. You wore basically the same outfit over and over, and you were told when to be somewhere, and what you were going to be doing, and all of this stuff.
currently, right now, you are working on raising funds for a Women Veterans Day retreat.
Correct. So Women Veterans Day is June 12th.
Hey, it's a thing. It's a thing.
It's totally a thing. So we
Totally a
call it
thing.
Women Veterans Day, and of course everybody's like, there's already a Veterans Day. Okay, yes, we understand that there is a Veterans Day for everyone on November 11, right? 11/11. What women veterans call Women Veterans Day is technically women. Oh gosh, what is it called? There's a long name. It's like Women Veterans Recognition. Oh shoot, hold on. Women Veterans Recognition Day. Now I gotta look it up because I cannot remember. Ooh, that's so right. June 12th.
Thanks for
Okay.
checking.
It is, because I don't want to say it incorrectly. So Women Veterans Day is also known as Women Veterans Recognition Day or Women Veterans Appreciation Day. And
Okay.
what that is it's the anniversary of the day that President Truman signed the Women's Armed Services Integration Act. And what this said was that, and this was in 1948, what this said was that women could be a part of the military. So that
Okay.
is why we call it Women Veterans Day, because it's a law that allowed women to finally be able to serve, in the military, and give back in that way. And back in 2020, let's see, 2023 was the 75th
Wow.
anniversary. So here in 2025, we're going to be coming up on what, 27 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That women
I
have
mean,
been serving.
I'm
Well,
sorry.
and
Did I say
right?
27? I meant 77.
77. I said the same thing. It's because 2025, and then we did 77 years in
Yeah.
2025. So
Yes.
what do you envision for this retreat? And why is it so, and why do you think it's so crucial for women who have served?
I think it's crucial because I want them to see that coming together with other women veterans is it's empowering. I mean, that networking and that connection of women together. Remember, I said, I did that 7-day retreat. And of course, the first day you're like feeling people out and trying to figure out, who are you and why are you here? And that's kind of what this would be like too. I'm looking at doing most likely 3 days of my retreat that I want to do would be up in Big Bear here in California. And it would take place, like I said, in June. There would be things like hiking, which, MWC has a hiking program. We would do things on the lake. We would be, outside and doing meditation. Just all these different things that I have been wanting to give back to other women, I think would just be phenomenal. And so I've
Oh,
been,
good.
I've been fundraising for that because I think it's needed. I'm looking at maybe 10 to 12 women, most likely 12, because June 12th, 12 women.
Got it.
Right. I think it's a good number. And it would be women veterans. And I want them to see, like, we're celebrating you, we're celebrating Women Veterans Day, and this is how, we're gonna celebrate you. And
Oh,
yeah,
it's not first, it sounds like an amazing, like, type of self-care, self-healing type of
exactly.
weekend anyway, but I have a
Yoga, all
yes,
that stuff. Yeah.
but how do you see, and I know you even teach some of these, like, you lead these, how do you see things like the hiking initiative, meditation classes, how do you see them playing a role? So first of all, scientifically, we all hear this, and people are like, your
Yep.
mental health, as soon as you're like, I'm feeling very anxious, have you tried exercise? I mean, that's like the number one thing. But what are you seeing in terms of programs like the hiking and meditation in terms of playing a role in the mental health and suicide
Yeah.
prevention of your members?
I absolutely think the more that people get out there, the more that they reconnect to nature or they reconnect to like their inner selves. I'm so thankful that I got to go to that retreat. And I want to share some of the different strategies, like coping strategies or different things that help me to not get lost in my head and lost in that spiral of negativity. Because before, before I went and really dug into myself, I'm like, oh, I'm fine. I don't need to go to any retreat. There were things that I remembered that I had repressed, like I didn't even realize were in there. And I think that is something that everybody needs to do is just release. And can I swear?
Go for it.
Okay, release the shit. Okay, because you don't need the longer you keep it in there. I swear that I believe I forgot the name of the author, but I totally agree with the author of The Body Keeps Score, or Body Keeps the
Oh yeah,
Score.
yeah, yeah, I know that book. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
I'll link to it, by the way, in like our show notes.
Oh,
So, okay.
I totally believe that, because I kid you not, when I came back from the retreat, some of the body pain that I had, I mean, I live with body pain 24/7, but I noticed there was a reduction in some of it because I had been holding on to pain, holding on to that crap, that shit for years. And once I let loose, and let it all out, it just it's very freeing. And that's the kind of thing that I want to be able to do for these women. Like I want to be able to do, a fire circle at one, and be outside and just just start letting these women release all of the things
Connect.
that are in there, because I've said this, and maybe this is um maybe this is, something I shouldn't say, or maybe it's kind of a, one of those points of contention, but I feel that every single woman that has been in the military in one way or another has been harassed verbally, physically, and if they say that they haven't, then they're really, really lucky. Um, I mean, I was lucky to never have been harassed in a physical way, but the verbal way also takes a toll on your mental health and your emotional health. And I mean, obviously, like I said, physical is far and away so much more traumatic. But I also I think that there are women that have been you know, holding on to things that they don't need to, because their time in the military is done, and there's no reason to keep that in your body, in your soul. Yeah. So I mean, these are the reasons that I do what I do, because I want women to understand, like, they they can reclaim their power, they can reclaim that tribe of other women that completely understand what they've been through, because men don't understand the difference of the military. Because here's the thing, and I've said this for years. Ask my friends, they'll tell you, the military and corporate America was created for men by men.
Yes.
Correct. So we're
And
already at an advantage as a woman, and then when you go into other, intersectionalities, like women of color, women that are LGBTQ, Q plus IA, all of those intersectionalities are going to just make it even more of, and I hate to say this, more of a disadvantage, right? Um,
well, it's interesting how I mean, when you're saying all women have experienced at least some verbal or in the military, but it's interesting how it parallels civilian life. Like
Absolutely.
when the whole Me Too movement started gaining steam, I remember thinking, God, I was really lucky. Like I was
Yeah.
never physically assaulted in this way, and how lucky I was. And at the time, so what was that, like 5 years ago, about maybe 5 or
Yeah.
6 years ago? So at the time, my daughter is a teenager, 16 now, was younger. And I remember, so I'm thinking I'm so lucky. But then I thought of all the things that were simply, that were not, that you couldn't call assault, but you could say made me so uncomfortable in my skin, so
Oh,
eager to
yeah.
leave the room, so wanting to run. But or do you report intention? Do you report these things? Like, no. And so, but looking back, I was like, but would I accept this for my daughter? Like,
Exactly. And now you
100%.
know better, right? Now you
Right.
know better. And that's why, and I kid you not, those 6 years of me doing EO work, it wasn't just me talking about, DE&I. It was me talking about harassment and assault and things like that, because I wanted people to know, when I was doing these trainings, there might be like 100 people in the room, and I would say to them, dead ass serious too, this is your tribe, this is your family, but someone in here is a oh gosh, I just forgot the word. Someone in here is a predator. Someone in this room is a predator, and you won't know who it is, and not until that horrible thing happens. And I would try to And I'm obviously not making light of sexual assault and rape and any of that, but I would go through scenarios to try to enlighten them as to what could happen in a foreign port. And I tried to make it kind of amusing so it would stick in their brain,
Right.
right?
Like
So
a
I would,
storytelling type
yes,
of, yeah.
exactly. So I would look around the room and I would pick, I'd pick, one of the younger gentlemen, and somebody that looked kind of shy, maybe looked more introverted, something like that. And I would say, okay, everyone, I am play acting. I am role playing right now. So please do not think this is me. And I would say, I'd go up and be like, hey, sugar pie, like, and I would pretend that I was hitting on this person, and you could see like the red come up, and they're just like, oh my God, I can't believe she's doing this. And I would say, okay, everyone, do you see this reaction in his,
Like the
in his body?
discomfort. Right.
Right. And this is the exact thing, the opposite way. Like when a man does this to a woman, this is how we feel too. And obviously, if someone is a different rank structure than you, then you feel like you can't say anything.
Right. Of course.
You feel like you can't say anything. And there are, I mean, I have an origin story to Military Women's Collective, that one of the things that led to me feeling so like isolated a lot of times when I was active duty, I was an instructor in San Diego at one of the schoolhouses, and I went on board at what we call a rider, because you're riding the ship, um, and I was there just as a guest, and I'm up in the gym, and this person starts talking to me, and I'm just thinking to myself, bro, I just want to work out, and I just want to, go lay down, because yes, I was in for 24 years, but I have inner ear issues, so I am always nauseous unless
Okay.
I take the Dramamine, right? And so I'm doing my workout, and I go to leave, and he starts talking to me. I'm just thinking to myself, who is this dude, right? And lo and behold, I go down to the berthing, which is like the sleeping area that we're all in. This story always gets me.
Oh, I'm
Um,
sorry. I feel
no,
bad.
no, no, no,
Okay.
no, no. I don't feel bad, because I like
Okay.
sharing it, because it makes others understand, I I'm talking to him, and I go down to the berthing, and I ask, these some of the girls down there, and I'm like, hey, who is this person, and why is he talking to me, and why is he trying to like give me his email address and all this stuff? And um one of the girls says, oh, that's our Chang. And what a Chang is, Cheng, what a Chang is the chief engineer. So CH from chief and ENG from
Okay.
engineer, right? This person is a naval officer, and this person was married. This person's wife had just given birth like a few months beforehand. Um, and so when I was talking to these girls, one of the girls said, oh yeah, he does that stuff all the time. He's hit on me all the, before too. And she is, even lower ranking than I am. She's a junior sailor. And I'm like, what the what now? So I take the two of us, and I go to this person called the Command Master Chief. The Command Master Chief is the highest enlisted person on the ship. We call them the
Okay.
CMC. And so I went to go speak with her, and told her, what had happened and all these different things. Um, and then I think nothing of it after that. I'm like,
Mm.
I'm a guest on the ship, and I'm really mind blown that this dude would think that this was okay. And so then I get called up to the the captain's at-sea cabin, which is up by the bridge of the ship, where you can see the ocean and everything. And so I go in there, and the minute I walk in, I'm like, oh, it's like a firing squad. Executive officer, which is like, what would that be? The executive officer is like the second in command, maybe like the COO.
Okay.
Then you've got the commanding officer, who I guess would be the CEO, right? And then you've got, like I said, the highest ranking enlisted person. So I'm just trying to think of translations for anybody that's not military. Anyway, I walk in, and then there's those three sitting, and then my chair all by itself. And I look and I think, this is not going to go well.
And the three that are sitting, is one is a woman?
One is a woman, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And then the other two are the XO and the CO are both men. And so I sit down, and they immediately begin to berate me and say, this is impossible. He would never do such a thing. This is not the kind of man he is. Something that I call the halo effect, which is, if you look that up, the halo effect is basically when you go off of how somebody presents themselves. Oh, this track star could never be a rapist because
right.
He's got a 5.0 GPA and blah blah blah.
Right.
Just that kind of redonkulousness, right? And so they proceed to berate me, and then we finally get to Hawaii, because we went from California to Hawaii, and I get off the ship, because this guy was like, oh, well, I'll take care of you, and you can stay with me in my hotel room, blah blah blah.
So wait, so it keeps happening while you're on the ship?
Nothing? Oh yeah, he keeps and so he was emailing from his personal account to my ship account that they had given me. And so I get off the ship, I find out that I got promoted, so I'm super excited. We get back, I fly back to California. A few months later, I get contacted by what we call the RILSO, which is the Regional Legal Services Office. And the RILSO says, we need you to come in to depose you. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what did I do? I must have done something wrong. What did I do? And they're like, no, this isn't about you. We need you to be a witness. And I was like, say what? What are you talking about? They had me come in. And so I went in, and they said, we would like you to testify against this person. And it ended up being, and I don't like calling him this gentleman, because he was an officer, but he was not a gentleman. I luckily, because I just knew intuition wise, I kept all the emails that he sent to me he sent them from his personal address to my ship address. I forwarded them all to my personal email.
So you'd have a record.
So I'd have this record. And to top it all off, this always gets me every time I say it. His email address. I
don't even want to
had the word puissance. Okay. Puissance in French translates to power. Puissance, puissance. That word directly translates to the word power. I mean, could you be any more obvious about what it is that you crave in your life there, bro? No.
Did anything happen, by the way, when
you... Oh yeah, he got kicked out. Yeah, because here's the thing. The reason that they had him up for court-martial was because he had been found in the dispersing office. So on the ship, the dispersing office is where we have we keep the money, and there's a big vault and stuff in there, and only certain people are on the list of people that are able to go in this room. Well, he was in this place doing the horizontal mambo with the female dispersing officer, and they were caught. And so he was brought up on charges. And the reason they brought me in as the witness was to show a pattern of what's the word? Like a pattern of character, like a character
Okay.
witness for a pattern of behavior. There we go. That's what I'm trying to say.
Wow. Wow. So that is,
So
and
yeah,
you said that's like your origin story. So you basically like your own experience, this particular experience, it all
yeah.
kind of fed into this one concept to do this.
To give back to women and to have them reconnect again, because when you go through something like I said, mine is not as traumatic as other women. I did not have an MST. I was extremely lucky in that way.
But it's
And
nothing you'd want for another woman. Like it's nothing
exactly.
you'd want for somebody else to have to go through. And I think that
No.
it
And
doesn't
if
have
they
to be
did
the
though,
worst
I
thing
want them
to
to
try to
know
prevent.
that they have people that they can come to and just vent and let it, get it out, because it's I mean, that kind of any kind of traumatic experience is just can turn into a cancer in your body and your soul. It and I don't want that for other women. I want them to know that they have that ability to be a part of this collective of active duty women, of military women. It's I don't know, it just brings me um a kind of a lightness to my being when I know that I have helped another woman to reconnect with other women veteran, because there's not a lot of us. We are a small percentage of an already small percentage. I think it's like what, less than 5% of the US has served in the military.
Right. And then
So,
then you're talking about the women. It's like,
right. And then on top of that, that makes it an even smaller percentage of that small percentage, right? So, but we are the fastest growing demographic though, because women want men to realize that we can do everything you can. Just because sometimes we bleed and get upset about cramps, and who cares? Like, we can still do the job. I don't know.
well, that's now I'm gonna have to ask you. So
Okay.
with that said, and I think obviously, so this whole podcast that I have is to kind of highlight women who are doing work on behalf of other women, right? And the idea that like sometimes people say you want to do something to fix it, so run for office or run for school board, but there's a million ways to help, and,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what that's what I'm interested in talking about. So,
Right.
but for the military in particular, I mean, women are anytime women like we've got the date here. What was it? What'd you say? It's 1948 women were basically allowed in the military, so this is not really all that long ago. So you're
It's
already,
really not.
and with a small population, you're already up against a more intense brotherhood, right? There's like a more
Right.
intense sense of patriarchy in the military, right?
Oh
Because
yeah,
right,
absolutely.
that's just the way that it's
It was
organized.
created. That was
Right.
the way it started. Yeah.
Right. So we've come so far. And now very suddenly, very recently, we've had some comments. And so our current Secretary of Defense, right, that is his job, Pete Hegseth, um, he commented and has been very vociferous before that women shouldn't serve in combat. How do you think that affects both what you're doing and past and present service women? Like, how does rhetoric like that impact morale and progress for women in the military or women, period.
It's so interesting that that he feels this way because you know there's this huge push to dismantle DEI, but then we talk about this meritocracy, and if a woman can get through ranger school or can become an air assault person or can make it through SEAL teams and do it at the same level as a man, then why shouldn't she be able to take that position on that team? If you really want to talk about meritocracy as being that thing, then let everybody show that they have the ability and the merit to do the job. If you're singling out 50% of the people, oh, yes, I'm sure it has affected morale in a huge way
Are
because
you
now
seeing it?
it's as though we're saying women can't do it just because we have different
Uterus.
body parts.
Yeah.
Like why? I've never understood that. If someone has you're like, yes, uterus. If someone has, I think it is so hard to put into words. You know
No,
what
I
I'm
was just
saying?
going
Like
to say, because it
I'm
is baffling.
struggling
And I feel
to
like,
put it into words because I think it is a protection thing. Men feel like they have to be the protector, the provider, the breadwinner, all of these things. It's been ingrained into them from the day they were born. You are the one, you're the family man. You have to be the family man, the macho, the tough and all of this. And why? Why?
it's bizarre because it's like, it's in many ways, he wants to, it's like people who say this want to protect that concept, but like we are, like you said, only 5% of the population even serves. It's like you would,
Yeah,
we'd be like an open umbrella, like, hello, we will find a place for you. Like, you want to serve your country, let us help you find your best fit. It doesn't,
right.
it it does baffle the mind. I just was curious if you're hearing it from your network, like of women, if they're, I mean, the thing is, if you're feeling suicidal, you're already not at your best,
Exactly.
obviously, right? So like, I feel like it's kicking people when they're down in terms of
Oh
women
yeah.
veterans who are maybe just getting out and already dealing with that identity kind of issue. And then you've got kind of people who fall into this type of thought pattern that are like, yeah, you shouldn't have been there in the first place. Well,
And I'm sure that honestly, how I was talking about we've got those predator people that are in the
mhm.
military. I think those same people are the ones that wholeheartedly agree with what he is saying because they joined, feeling like women were second class citizens already. And now it has been, you know,
Declared.
declared. Yeah, exactly. And I don't understand how, we could say we're going to dismantle DE&I, but literally the military is the epitome of DE&I. It's people from every socioeconomic background, every, race, color, creed, whatever. I mean, all of those obviously are social constructs, but I mean, and then now saying that trans people, shouldn't be serving. Why? Just because they decided to become more themselves? The way I explain trans to people when I was active duty even was like, imagine you are wearing a wetsuit and that you can't take it off. And then all of a sudden you realize that you can do surgery, to change things. That is how I explain somebody being, either going from male to female or female to male transition. Because whatever is on the outside isn't matching what they see on the inside. And that whole body dysmorphia, trying to say that 5 times fast, is what is so wounding and so traumatic to them. Like, my body doesn't match what I see here. Can you imagine?
And also the fact that like these kind of pronouncements are being made based on what your body looks like, right? So it's the
Right.
color of your body, the shape of your body, the yeah, all of that. So
Yep.
yeah, so that there's a lot in that one. Well, let me ask you one more thing. I have 2 more questions for you. Then I'm not going to keep you any longer. Although I honestly think I could just talk to you for hours and hours. I'm going to have to make a trip out there to look out. So, so when we're talking about all these things, and also I just want to say that I know you. I feel like you said something about this, but just my experience too. The people that I have met that are in the military, which has been extensive for my previous, me now versus 5 years ago. I've met a million people in the military, and I must say 99% of them I feel like are great people. So
Yes.
while there are like these predators, I didn't want anybody thinking we're like, oh, and it's the military. Like,
No, and I am so not against the military. I mean, I think it is a phenomenal, it's a phenomenal place to be. It's, it instills discipline. It teaches you how strong you are, but it is also a place that can be dangerous. It's about knowing how to have that awareness about yourself. But the thing is, a lot of people that join, because they're joining out of high school or at a younger age, they might not have that awareness. I mean, I went into the military at 23. Okay.
no awareness about anything at that age.
Yeah. And
You know?
luckily I had been working for 5 years already
Wow.
in Europe, and back here in the States. So I had some awareness of myself. But when you have people that are literally coming out of high school and going straight into the military, they don't have that self-awareness yet. They don't have that ability to, a lot of times, to stand up for themselves and the things that they believe. And yeah, it's tough. But it can also be one of the most rewarding things that you have ever done in your life. I mean, I got to go to countries that, I mean, come on, I got to go to Chile and Peru and oh my gosh, Saipan, Thailand, Singapore,
Oh my gosh.
Hong Kong. I mean, give me a country and I'm probably have been there. Um, yeah,
Yeah, there's so many, and I just wanted to throw that out there because I know you feel positively about it because of the
oh
work you
yes.
do, and I did, I didn't want to just lean on the negative.
100%. I'm not like trying to,
Right,
layer all
right.
yeah, I'm not trying to say
But
no, don't ever don't join the military because no, I would never say that, because it has given me so much. It really has. I mean, I met, lifelong friends. I've, like I said, got to visit all kinds of places. I mean,
but it's even fueled this chapter of your life. Like you're,
100%. Oh
even if it's
yeah,
not the
sure.
same thing, it's fueled it. Well, with that said, what are some of the things, are there any kinds of systemic changes you would like to see or you wish occurred to make the transition out easier for service women? You mentioned like the
Yes.
5-week indoctrination in, 5
Yes.
days out. What's another, what would you, is that the main thing that you'd like to
That
see?
is really the main thing. There should be, I mean, the 5 days of classes that we do, yes, we're getting resources and things like that. We're going over, but I think doing the reorientation part of it is so much more important. Having people stop speaking in acronyms is a huge one. Like I started back in, because I retired in 21. I started speaking in non-acronyms back in like 2019 because I
Oh,
wanted to stop, like doing that stuff because people don't understand the military acronyms. Obviously, if you go into corporate and they've got their own acronyms, it's going to be completely different. Like, what does this mean? What does this mean? You're going to learn all new ones from the ones that that you had to learn for the military. I think taking, the 5 or 6 weeks to reorient people back into speaking like non-military people, taking that time to let people, just learn how to, what is an elevator pitch, what is a good resume, what kind of resume should I be doing, should I be doing a chronological, should I be doing a functional, you know should I be applying for federal work, should I be doing this, it's all these questions that are not being answered right now.
I listened, tell me if this, how accurate this is from your experience. I listened to, so my son loves Mr. Ballin. Well, he used to years ago. I mean, I don't think he has time to listen to the Mr. Ballin podcast anymore. It's
Okay.
like scary stories. It's John B. Allen was a Navy SEAL.
Okay.
And anyway, now he's a podcaster of scary stories. It has nothing to do with the military, but he was interviewed by John Ryan, who anyway, there's a podcast. It's a military podcast that
John
talks
Ryan.
Sean Ryan. That's it. He was interviewed by Sean Ryan, and it's a long podcast, much
Okay.
longer than this one. And anyway, he fell asleep, and I listened to it because I thought it was fascinating. But he was talking about coming out of it, and now here's somebody who's got like a successful career now.
Yeah.
So you look at that, but he's like, no, it was not so. And he's very open about what the experience,
Yep.
that transition was like for him and how difficult it was. But one of the things he said is like, I didn't even know like Google. He's like, we have our own email systems. Like,
Yeah.
and so even that, like, just functioning with it almost makes you think of those movies. What's that movie a million years ago where Brendan Fraser's parents, it's like a comedy, but they thought there was going to be like the world was falling apart, they were locked in a bunker, and then they came
Encino
out.
Man.
And no, it's a different one. But he comes out and he's like all innocent, like, oh, this is an elevator. He has no concept of like what's happening in the real
Yeah.
world. And it's funny and it's jokey, but it almost was like that, like to not know Google, it seemed
Yeah.
so huge at the time. But it's even those kinds of things, right? It's like as common as something might be in like the civilian world, it could be completely foreign.
Oh yeah. And I tell people a lot of times that when you're coming out of the military, a lot of time, and I know I said this earlier, that people get blinded. They think they can only do the work that they were doing in the military when they get out. But here's the thing, we are such multitaskers in the military that how do you choose which of the tasks that you were doing? That's the
Oh, wow.
thing. Yeah, how do you go up against somebody who started maybe at 18 or 21 because they, went to college. They started at 21 in a corporate structure. And so now, after 5 years, they're 26, they've had 5 years of exactly the experience they need to move up to the next level, or however many years, right? Whereas the person in the military, they've had 5 years of experience, but it isn't exactly at that position. It's 5 years of experience doing suicide prevention, and it's 5 years of experience doing aircraft maintenance. It's 5 years of experience, because you don't just do what your job title is, especially for the Navy. We go by job titles, whereas the other services go by the rank, and then
Okay.
you get a code that is your job. The Navy's
Your
different with that.
MOS. that it? The MOS?
Yes, so MOS, AFSC for the Air Force. It's
Oh, okay, okay.
the Air Force. It's like a job code. Same, that's what all of those are.
Okay.
And the Navy, whereas, for example, you're a hospital corpsman, which is like a medic for the Navy, or
Okay.
you're a, uh, you know, gosh, I'm trying to think of something, a main propulsion assistant or whatever it is. I mean, well, that's officers, that's different, but we don't just do that job. Like for me, I was a sonar technician, but remember, I told you at the last 6 years of my life, I was doing EO. I was
Yeah.
still a sonar technician, but because that's my rate, but the code that I was using, that NEC, Navy enlisted, oh wait, Navy enlistment code, Navy, I can't remember what it means anymore. I love that I don't remember the acronym.
Yes.
That NEC, the main one that I was using was the one for what we call the command climate specialist, which was the EEO or the EO of the command, which is the unit or the the department or the company, really.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
Man, there's so much in there.
yeah.
Well, okay. The last thing that I can ask you, because
Okay.
again, I'll take your whole day. We're gonna have to do a part two because I feel like I have a whole bunch more questions for you. But for you are an incredible example of somebody who's used their lived experience to drive change. A lot of people I've noticed in life will feel that they don't, they've had something happen or they've lived through something or they've just had their experience and maybe they want to make a change about it, but maybe they want to contribute, but they don't know where to start. And then so a lot of people throw up their hands. What am I going to do?
Right.
And so you don't do anything. And you're not one of those people. So what advice would you give to other women, whether they're veterans or not, who want to create an impact but don't know where to start?
Wow. You do not have to start a nonprofit if you don't want to. If you do decide that you want to take action that is in a nonprofit alley or way, there is something called fiscal sponsorship. What fiscal sponsorship? She's like, I'm writing this down because I'm about to do this. So what fiscal sponsorship is instead of you going to the IRS and putting forth why you think you should be a nonprofit, you fall underneath a nonprofit and use their nonprofit status to do your work. That means if the overarching nonprofit gets a grant, they can grant you some money from that grant to assist you with whatever program. So for example, let's say I'm the one that wants to fiscally sponsor you. You want to create a program teaching women veterans how to create a podcast. I would grant you the money that I am getting from the government or wherever, or it could just be, what I have on hand, right? I could grant you the money to go ahead and create this program, and it would fall under Military Women's Collective, but it would be your program.
Okay,
It's
got it. That is
it's
some
really a
very,
cool,
very
cool thing.
tangible advice. Thank you.
It's a phenomenal thing that I wish I had known
Well,
before I
that's
started
the
my own
best part.
nonprofit. I kind of was like, dang it. But
Giving
I
pay it
tell
forward.
everybody else about it now because I think it's a really important thing to look into, before you go down that road of nonprofitness, right?
Then it definitely
Um,
lowers like that barrier to entry.
correct,
Things a little
100%.
bit, yeah. So, but
And I think also for women, we just have to learn to live in our power and know. I mean, I'm not the most confident person in the world. I'm really not, but I think I'm funny as hell. Um, and I have my knowledge base that I know a lot about. So it's the stuff that I want to share. So if there's something that you feel that you know a lot about, then just start doing that. Start sharing it with others. You can do it on, I mean, how many different social media platforms are there now, right? Like 11 billion. And just seriously start recording videos, put them on Instagram, put them on LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever. Or I think that there's so much to be. I don't know. I'm not even sure why I said Facebook and Instagram, because anyway, we'll go. But
Oh, I just think you're fabulous. I'm totally going to email you later. No, but you're right. You're right. And I love hearing that from people who are doing something awesome. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk to me today. Like, this was such a pleasure. Thank you so, so much.
my pleasure.
Thank you so much.
If you want to do part 2, hit me up again.
I will. I will. Thank you, Rena. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Roar. If Marina's story moved you, if it reminded you of the strength it takes to serve, to transition, and to show up for others, you're not alone. Women veterans deserve more than gratitude. They deserve support, visibility, and community. Marina's helped making that happen. If this episode resonated, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you want more behind the scenes moments, upcoming guest intel, and stories of women rising in every arena, head to listentoroar.com and join the newsletter. It's where the real conversation continues. Next week, I'm talking with Shani Jo Darden, the founder of Keep Abreast, a global nonprofit using art and education to change how we think about breast health. She's been doing this work for 25 years, and trust me, you'll want to hear what she has to say. See you then.